all of us are supposed to be exactly who God has made us to be. And that is where you get the opportunity to play your part heroically. Because truly, none of us are the hero. Christ is the hero of the story. But you can play your part heroically. And if you look at your life and say, man, if I'll just be disciplined, if I'll just complete the task that's in front of me, I get the special prize that's behind the door from the God of the universe, right? This is the plan. This is the purpose that he has for me. And so what I did was I leveraged all of that into every moment of SEAL training. And I said, if I quit right now, I'm walking away from this, the ultimate prize from the God of the universe, the plans that he has for me, right? I knew I was supposed to be there.
It's impossible.
Let me tell you what I believe.
But your weakness is not your technique.
Yes! Yes!
Don't think you are. Know you are.
The Impossible Life podcast.
I mean, you're sitting on a winning lottery ticket.
An idea that is fully formed, fully understood, that sticks.
This is the Impossible Life podcast because Nick and I are attempting to live impossible lives. What we know is that nothing is impossible. So instead of using impossible as an excuse to not try, we'll use the pursuit of impossible as an accelerant for greatness. If something's never been done before, that just means it's unexplored. If they tell you it's too hard, it's just waiting to be simplified. Impossible is a default label used by uncourageous people unwilling to take a risk. The real truth is this. The solution to any impossible task starts with this question. If I had to, what would it take? What would it take?
Welcome to another episode of the Impossible Life podcast. I'm your co-host, Nick Surface, and I'm looking across at a man who has been caught smiling on camera the same amount of times as Bigfoot has been recorded walking in the woods. That's right, friends, the former Navy SEAL Garrett Unclebach, a man who, if you've ever seen a photo of him smiling, there's a 99% chance it was photoshopped.
There's a lot of stories. There's many claims to have evidence of such a picture of Bigfoot or the Garrett smile, but
you know, I actually have to give a shout out to our man Charlie Witt, we met Charlie originally at the Legacy Navigators, which may be a one-time event. I don't know if we'll do that again, in all honesty, but that's not decisive. So if you've hoped to go on that trip, don't be discouraged. We don't have any plans for it right now. But we met Charlie there, and Charlie's been awesome. And now he's joined us in Mindset Mastery, and he's been like hustling. He's the kind of guy that you want in Mindset Mastery because he's squeezing 100%. The lemon. And he actually sent that to me as a joke. He didn't try and suggest it as an intro, but when he said it to me, I laughed and I was like, I'm going to work that into an intro. So Charlie, thanks for doing that. And also shout out to my son, who's one of his favorite activities is Bigfoot hunting. Like he's all about it. Like let's go out in the woods and just hunt for Bigfoot. That's one of his favorite things to do. Anyways, today, G, is the 3 musts for discipline. And as always, I'm amped to get into this. There's 2 things we get asked about more than anything. One is purpose. The other is discipline, right? And like people don't always say like
sometimes people ask me about discipline and I don't answer their discipline.
Well,
question.
I would say that's a lot of times. But what's interesting about discipline, people know that they lack it and that it's hurting them. I don't think they know how much it hurts them, but they people be like, oh, I'm so undisciplined. But so many times people, like when I've been talking to people or I'm working with somebody, they'll bring me a problem and I'm like, okay, before we can solve this problem, we actually have to get you some basic discipline, because if you have no basic discipline, I can give you all the right answers and you won't be able to do it. And so that's where a lot of people are at.
Here's a trick question.
Oof.
If you could solve for one, right? If you could know exactly, like the plan is laid out for you, you know exactly what is the best thing to do, but discipline's hard for you.
Right.
Or would you rather have discipline be really easy for you, but you have no idea what to do?
Definitely the latter. And that's an easy decision for me, because once I think it's a lot easier to find what to do than it is to train the discipline muscle.
You say that.
Okay. Well, are you going to give us the answer? Or is this
no, it's a trick question. I don't think there is a right answer to it, because I've seen both work for people.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but a lot of people think like that just having discipline would get them to where they need to go,
right?
And it won't.
Well,
I've met the lost disciplined people, and I've met what's interesting is of the people who really know where they're supposed to go, they don't appear as undisciplined.
Right. Yeah. Very interesting. Anyways, we could get sidetracked in our own discipline podcast, which we can't do that because that would be undisciplined. So the reason we're talking about this, like we said, is because the first thing we get asked most about is purpose. And then I think discipline is the second one. And people know. Fortunately, we got a guy who's a former Navy SEAL who knows a thing or two about discipline.
Who's that?
It's you. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just want to remind you. The guy who has Old Glory behind him on our podcast.
Old Glory.
So we just completed a little bit of a competition that we've talked about on this podcast. And interestingly enough, I was surprised how many people reached out, like our friends who know us, were like, hey, who won between you guys? So like, if you know what I'm talking about.
We got to give a shout out to our man,
Big Norm.
Big Norm. I think
got the
Norm,
PK going.
I think Norm is 2 leaderboards today. Norm has won our competition. Congratulations to Norm. I think Norm's also definitely number 1 in listener shout outs.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, that's because Big Norm is the man. And we love Norm and Norm loves us. And he's just been.
You're just mad that you don't have your own personal Randy Savage.
Yes. And that is actually true because when we did the 100 miler, Norm dressed up as Randy Savage when we were about like 70 miles in. It was early morning. And I remember I was so disoriented. I thought he was going to serve in kids' church. I was like, wow, Norm's dressed up like a wrestler. That's cool. I didn't know he was doing it to encourage us. And he had to tell me about it like weeks later. And I was like, oh, that was for us. Thanks, man. But Norm's just a dude who like, he's supportive. He's a huge encourager. And I'm grateful to have a friend like Norm because you don't get friends like that are always just like, man, like that tells you how much they love you and that you're great and like encourages you. He's just a great friend. But how this happened. So if you're wondering what we're talking about, because we do get a lot of new listeners, and this might be their first episode, Garrett and myself and Norm we're all just randomly texting each other like, hey, I took a DEXA scan. Oh, I'm taking one recently too. So we're like, well, let's just send each other our results. Well, we sent each other our results, and it turns out we were within 1% or 1.5% between all 3 of us. We were in the same zone of body fat. And so we're like, okay, well, then we see each other at Bible study on Tuesday morning. And of course, we're standing around talking, and it's like, I think I'm gonna get leaner. Yeah, I think I'm gonna get leaner. And then so of course, it was you, Garrett. Was like, well, it sounds like we should put a cutoff deadline point for this, where we draw a line under it and see who can get there the fastest.
Everything's better when it's a competition.
It's not a competition, but everything's a competition.
Exactly.
You say that all the time.
It's true.
So off we went, and it was like I said, okay, what are the rules? Because we need to know. And here's the rules: you're gonna take a DEXA at the beginning of October, and whoever has the lowest body fat wins. And I tried to throw a caveat in there for visceral fat because I always do really well on that. These guys were having none of it. It was just pure get down to as lean as possible.
That was the competition was lowest body fat percentage. And so we started within a little bit over 1% spread. And you could say, well, the person who was lowest should have won, and Norm did win, but I'll give him props. Norm also, from a percentage standpoint, made the most gains as well.
Right.
So Norm really...
He did.
He double won.
Yeah, because he was at 13.4 and he finished at 12. I started at 13.7. I finished at 12.8.
And I started at 14.8 and finished at 14.2.
Right. So we all went the right direction. As you said many times.
I was focused more on a recomp. I was my weight stayed the same. I gained 2 pounds of muscle and lost 1.2 pounds of fat. I was wanting to gain 4 pounds of muscle and lose 4 pounds of fat.
Yeah, whereas I lost 4 pounds of muscle and 3 pounds of fat, which is not the way to do it. But I ended up losing 7 pounds during the course of this thing. So in a span of from April to October, we'll post some pictures as well, because on Instagram, if you don't follow us on social media, go to Instagram or Facebook and just look up The Impossible Life and follow us. We'll post some pictures or post a reel about this so you guys can see it. But the point being, we all, like Garrett said many times, there's only going to be one winner, but there will be no losers. Yeah. And that was the way it went. We all got in much better shape. I was saying that's like the leanest I've been since I was in probably my early 20s.
Well, we're going to keep going. So shout out to Norm, our winner. We all won, but Norm won the competition.
He did.
And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about some lessons that came from
this
little. It was a little under 90 days, but we took off on a sprint.
Right. Yeah. And I just said, I was like, there's some great lessons from that. They're everybody, because we know people need discipline. And so why not share some of these, considering that we're fresh out of a more intensely disciplined. We live disciplined lives, but this was a very specific, measurable discipline with some added competition. And dare I say some trash talk, particularly from the more intense half of The Impossible Life.
And I'll just remind folks, if you've never done a DEXA scan, you need to do a DEXA scan.
Right.
Because you can look in the mirror and tell yourself one thing.
Oh man!
But the DEXA scan does not lie.
It does.
I was talking to Lindsay yesterday about my results. She says, "Are you happy with your results?" I was like, "Well, not really."
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought I look at where I'm at in the mirror and I see a lot of positive change.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with the way I look. I'm going to keep going. But honestly, I'm not happy with the numbers. And she goes, well, how accurate is a deck? I was like 99%. She's like, oh.
But if you talk to like
she was ready to hype me up and be like, Dex is stupid. I was like, it's not.
You know what though, man? What you just said is exactly how I felt. When I got my results, I was like, I did all that for 0.9%. I was like, that was not worth it, because we'll talk about some more of the difficult points as we go through this episode. But then when I looked in the actual pictures, I'm like, I've made a lot more progress than what 0.9% is. And if you talk to people that are like, well, Dex is lean mass, and you could have water, and like there's obviously people that know a lot that argue about it. But anyways, the point being, we were disciplined, and everyone needs discipline. And to that point, G, actually kind of conveniently, we just happened to be coming off of a full day where we were focused on the two biggest topics that people ask us about, which is discipline and purpose. So one of the things that I'm absolutely amped, I've been after Garrett only since we started the podcast 4 years ago to do this, is we finally yesterday.
The marketer in Nick has been asking for this.
Yes, the marketer in me has been asking for it, but the person who wants to help people and saw how cool this thing was from day zero has been like, dude, you need to do that. People need this. And so yesterday we recorded a basic discipline training program. It's 30 days of discipline, spirit, soul, and body, taught by Garrett. And we're going to be releasing this program in the coming weeks. It's going to be absolutely free, which is why I was so amped, because people need discipline. They know they need discipline. What's hard is you don't necessarily know what program you should do or how to do it, or, there's all these different things that come into mind. I don't want to do it on my own. Well, we're going to help solve for all of that, because we're going to have this program out there that you can dive into with hundreds or thousands or whoever other people are going to be in there, and you can go through this thing. I will say, now that we've done it, we recorded it professionally. We've been playing it for a long time. And I will say, I don't know that there's anything else out there like this, G, because what you get when you go through this, and like I said, it's absolutely free. You get in there, you're going to wake up, you're going to see a brief video from Garrett, 60 to 90 seconds of him giving you mindset, encouraging you, giving you life for the day. Then he teaches you how to pray during the course of the program. You are going to pray. You're going to have a scripture assignment. You're going to then have a podcast for the day and an exercise. It will take you 60 minutes, depending on your fitness level, a day to do that. We designed it to be very tight to an hour, unless you are extremely slower and really, really not great physical shape, in which case it'll take you longer. Or you could go faster if you're in really great physical shape, but you still have to listen to the podcast. But the point being, when you're done with this, I said to Garrett, I was like, man, if people go through this for 30 days, regardless of how disciplined they are, and don't worry, this is not the running program. You don't go on a 10-mile run or anything. The longest you run is a 5K, because I know some people hate running, but guess what? Good. You need to.
So do I.
So does Garrett, and we still put it in the program. But when I said to Garrett, I was like, man, why I'm so excited about this is because I genuinely, like, you guys know how we roll on this podcast. We're here to serve people. We have a great vision to to change the perception of what it means to be a godly man. And what I know is that whether you're super disciplined or whether you have no discipline, if you go in and you do these 30 days, if you can just turn up, watch the videos, and do what the program says, you will be markedly improved after 30 days, because you're going to have spent 30 straight days of having mindset absolutely pumped into you from some of the greatest hits, quote unquote, shows that we have strategically chosen from our podcast catalog to go with scripture. You're going to read about David. You're going to read about Joseph. You're going to read about Jesus. You're going to get like 3 heroes of the Bible during the course of the 30 days. You're going to have Garrett every day giving you some of the nuggets he dropped out there yesterday. There was 1 or 2 that I hadn't heard. There was plenty that I've heard before, but I needed to be reminded again. So Garrett's giving his best in there. So you're going to have spirit, soul, and body. And when you're done at the end of those 30 days, you will be ready to rock. And this is the basic training course. So I'm slightly amped about it.
So again, it's 30 days, spirit, soul, and body, about an hour a day, and it's absolutely free. So go to theimpossible.life/discipline. And obviously, Nick will put the links in all the places.
I will. I'm going to put the link in the show notes, but it's theimpossible.life/discipline. And that's where you're going to go to sign up to be the first person to get it. Because we're going to try and release it as soon as possible. We've got some work to do, G. Recording it was just part 1. But we're going to put this in so it's in a super easy to use format. You'll be able to access it from a free app on your phone or on your computer. And if you want to be the first to do it, and
do you want to tell them when it's going to release?
I don't have I'm going to try and do it this month, but honestly, there's a lot of work to do. So
roughly early November.
Yeah, I would say I would like to release it before the end of October. So we're at the beginning of October as we record this. It's October 5th. So I'm going to try and get it out in a few weeks. And the point being, sign up now, because you'll be one of the first people to get in there. And I'm just like I'm sure you can tell, I'm very excited to get this in people's hands, because now what it equips us to do is when we get DMs or we get emails or we get people reaching out, we can just go, look, go do this. It's for free. And you can go get your friends and you can do it with them. And now you can share it. There's just so many things I'm excited about. Should probably move on, because otherwise I'll just talk about that.
Let's jump into some discipline lessons for today.
Yeah, discipline lesson number 1. If you ask Garrett to do something enough for 4 years, he'll get to it. But you know what, real quick, G, before we do jump in, I want to give people a little backstory, because people don't know about the Crucible. So, and this is, I didn't plan to share this, but this is actually really fun. The way that Garrett and I started as coaching is Garrett had, and I've shared this on the podcast before, but he had the most outrageous piece of marketing copy I've ever read, where it was like you could click the link in bio. This is before Garrett was like cared about social media. I think he had like 3,000 followers. You were just like hardcore dude, leading mighty men. And like, if you want to look at my social media, then you should probably be spending your time better. Right? So like you click on this link and it takes you to like GarrettUnclebach.com. And he tells you that he's got a program. Are you sick of basically like lacking in life? Are you tired of constantly despising the fact that you can't finish anything? If you've been able to like stave off distraction long enough to be here, then keep going. But if you're thinking about going back to Instagram, just leave now, because this program is too good for you. Or like, it was just the most get out of here, I don't want you piece of content. It was like the Bud's attitude, like you don't deserve to be here. And I read the whole thing because I was like, I can't believe that this is like real. And I reached out to him because I was like, you know what? I'm ready to get a beat down. Like, I need to enter some extreme discipline. And he was like, look, you're already pretty disciplined. I think coaching would be better. So I went to coaching. But this Crucible was a thing that you did when you came out of the SEAL teams. And what was it, 90 days that you designed it? Or was it 100? It was 100 days. So I knew about this program, and he said nobody had ever finished it. And when we first started the podcast, you had somebody that had tried it before reach out to you again. And so you and I started to rewrite the program for him. And basically you would email them every morning at 5:30 a.m. and they had to respond back, received, within 5 minutes, or they were disqualified. So this is how Garrett started this.
It was very strict program. And it was meant to be like, not quite one-on-one coaching, but direct interaction with me. And you had to email and check in at 5 a.m, and then I would send you the.
Yeah, like if you didn't get back to me, it's like, oh well, hey, and
you failed. Sorry,
and you had to pay for the program. It was like $1,000, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it was $1,000, and Garrett was going to just basically. It was not scalable because you could only do that with like a couple people. But I just was like, man, this is incredible. So this dude came back and asked you, and we started writing the program for him, Spirit, Soul, and Body, which this was years ago. And I was looking back to see if I could find those emails, because we did it over email, and it was kind of fun to read some of those old ones. But that was where I was like, Garrett, you don't understand. And as it was, the guy hurt himself playing golf, funnily enough, not through the exercises we gave him. And I will tell you that the way that he pushed on those people for the 100 days of discipline was a number of degrees harder than what this 30-day program that we just recorded yesterday is. Although yesterday's program is not easy, it's definitely meant to be basic.
It's not the Crucible.
Right, it's not the Crucible. It's basic training. But that's why I was bugging you for 4 years, in case people were wondering. It's not like I had this idea. I saw what you were already doing. I'm like, dude, this is really good, and people need this, because we've all got 75 hard. I'm going to work out. I'm going to read a book. But like, to be in the Bible, to be strengthening your relationship with Jesus, to be getting stronger mentally, and then to also be like having some physical lessons to tie to it. Anyways, this is not the 30-day basic training, basic discipline training podcast. So let's keep going, G.
Let's keep going.
Be disciplined. Okay. So let's get into it. We're going to give you the 3 musts for discipline, but I want to highlight why people fail at discipline as well, because I think that there's these repeated patterns that happen all the time. And for one thing, it's really important, because everything we do, we always say on The Impossible Life, it starts with the Word of God. Discipline is a godly thing. It is not like I've heard people, and I'd be curious to hear, Gee, when people pray for discipline, what's your take on that? Because I know that we have things that we're responsible for and things that God's responsible for. Where would you kind of fall in there?
Well, let me ask you something, Nick. If your daughter came to you and said, "Dad, help me be disciplined,"
right?
What are you going to do for her?
Yeah, I'm gonna say figure it out. I'm just kidding. Okay,
you're gonna
see what you did there.
You're gonna put her on a path, right?
Yeah.
So, there are things that you can pray for that you should be mindful of what's going to happen if you pray for those things, right? Like praying and asking for humility.
Oh man.
God, be careful if you pray and ask for that one. And praying and asking for discipline, what you're saying is, God, like, I need you to tell me the basic things.
Yeah.
Like I'm supposed to know how to. Discipline is doing what you say you're going to do.
Right.
That's what discipline is. What level of what more knowledge do you need to understand that?
Yeah.
Now, what will help you with that is your mindset around discipline.
Oh, yeah.
And those are the things that we talk about.
Right.
But if you're saying, God, help me with my discipline, if you're praying for God, like, God, help discipline be easier for me. He's like, oh, you want the weights to feel lighter? oh, okay, what you need is weight training. Because that's what you're asking. You say, God, like, help me be disciplined. What you're saying is, like, why is everything so hard for me? It's like, well, because you don't go to the gym.
Yeah, Lord, give me strength. Guess how he's going to give you strength? He's going to be like, great, let's put some weight on the bar.
Pick up this weight.
Right. But no, I just wanted to pick it up and be easy. No, you can't fast. Process is a principle. God is a God of process.
What does God want most for you? Right. This is this will help you in like all the things you pray for, all the things that you want for your life. What does God want most for you? Because like for my kids, what I want most for them is to grow and mature.
Yeah.
And so there's things that they want, like they want to go to what they call it the yogurt store. I want to go get frozen yogurt.
Yeah.
Dad, I want to go to the yogurt store. Right. Like, okay, we can do that, but we're going to make sure we do that on the way to your growth and maturity.
Right.
That is my extremely biased motivation for my children.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna hit some of these check stops on the way to where I want you to go.
Right.
And where does God want us to go? He wants us to go to maturity.
Yeah.
He's not trying to make everything easier for us.
Right. That's so good, G. So just know it is like discipline, self-control, they go hand in hand, and it's a godly thing. I mean, there's so many scriptures. Proverbs 25:28 is one of the ones I love. It says, a man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls, which doesn't mean as much to us now, but the Message version says a person without self-discipline is like a house with no doors or windows. And what good is that? It doesn't keep out the weather. It doesn't keep out bad guys. You don't really have any privacy. It's essentially like
a man without self-control or a man without discipline, you're just hoping nothing bad happens to you.
Right.
You're hoping you don't get into difficult situations because you have no ability to defend yourself.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean,
interesting.
Okay.
Interesting scripture. Okay. Or piece of history that goes right along with this proverb is, I've talked about this before, and this is where Paul is talking to the Corinthians about run your race.
Yeah.
Okay. Corinth, where the church of Corinth was in Isthmus. Okay? And Isthmus was home to what was called the Isthmian Games. They don't exist anymore, but like there was the Olympic Games, there was the Isthmian Games, and I'm blanking on one other, but there were 3 sets of big Greek games that happened in different sequences. And the Isthmian Games, different, and this is where I've preached this point before, right? Run your race to win, because the Isthmian Games did not have a first, second, and third. They only had a first place.
The Ricky Bobby Games.
You're not first, you're last. That's exactly what they were.
Yeah.
Okay, and the Isthmian Games had a very interesting ritual that when you won, they would do a parade in your home city and they would tear a hole in the wall. Right? The mayor of your town's like, man, why don't we get some like gold or something?
Can we start a different trend?
They would tear a hole in the wall for your homecoming. And instead of going through the gates, they would have you enter through the hole in the wall because they set up a city with a champion such as this has no need for defensive walls.
Wow, I love that, man.
That was what the meaning of that was.
That's so
if
great.
a man like this lives here, you don't even need walls.
That was before people now be like, but what if you had him and the walls? It's like, shut up, you're not welcome here.
Get your logic out of here.
Get your logic out of here. Anyways, but so just understand. I mean, there's a lot more scriptures we could go into, and we actually are going to get a little bit more scripture as we always do in here. But I mean, 2 Timothy 1:7 is one of our favorite. God's not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and self-discipline. I mean, there's so many scriptures. Discipline is a godly thing, and how we define discipline, G.
You're gonna have to have discipline in your life, no matter what.
Yeah.
We if you've been with us in Mindset Mastery, where we teach on discipline and habits, you have to have discipline to get to where you want to go. But discipline's just not the full answer.
Right.
By being like, and all respect to him, but being like super David Goggins disciplined doesn't mean you're going to achieve your purpose.
Right. No, 100%. But people are drawn to that because they see some element of greatness, and rightfully so. There is an element of greatness because, like we said, discipline is a principle. It's a foundational building block for all growth because, like principles of growth, repetition, consistency, and time. Right? How much?
It's like
how
I've
often?
said,
how long?
It's like I've said on Winning Philosophy, right? And what's funny is at Union with a lot of the interviewing that we've been doing, I've been asking people the winning philosophy question. So why are you good at what you do and don't tell me that you work hard?
Right.
Right? Because in Winning Philosophy, if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. I don't remember what the episode number is. But in the Winning Philosophy episode, I talk about how every person has their unique reason that they win. Because every successful person I've been around, they have some tools that they use to win. If you think that you're successful because you work hard, you really don't know what your greatness is.
Yeah.
Every person I know that's great works hard.
Yeah.
That's not why they're great.
Right.
So you must work hard, and discipline is exactly that. You must be disciplined if you want to be great.
Yeah.
But discipline's not why you're going to be great.
That's exactly right. Yeah, because you have to repeat things. By the way, Winning Philosophy was episode 89.
If you've never listened to that one, it's one of my personal favorites.
Yeah, episode 89. And I'll say, G, I've not heard a lot of people talk about winning philosophy the way that you do. And that's one of the things I like about what we get to do here is like we get to pull out some of these little unique nuggets, and hopefully they're things that other people can benefit from. So remember, it's a foundational building block. It's a principle. You absolutely have to have it. And how do we define discipline, G? Very simply, it's just doing what you said you'd do, which you're like, no. Well, that's not right. No, it really is. I'm going to do this. Okay, let's see.
When I was in the SEAL teams, I experienced a few different reasons of why people fail. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 11 says, no discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it. Literally in this verse, it's talking about some of the things that is the most important part of discipline.
So good.
While you're doing it, it's going to hurt. But later on, what is it? What this is encapsulating how you make discipline work. Don't focus on what discipline, how it makes you feel right now.
Yeah.
Discipline will take you to the places that you want to go.
Yes.
It's going to be a painful train ride, but you want to go where this train is going.
Right.
Later on, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace. So let me just talk real quick about some of the reasons why people fail at discipline. This is the biggest one that I experienced. This is directly to Hebrews 12:11. This is a lot of my experience in the SEAL teams. Every time I interviewed people who had quit the program, they quit somewhere in training or they quit in Hell Week, and you ask them why they quit, and I synthesized all of their answers into essentially this statement. I heard this statement nearly word for word many times, or other people's statements were just an overly verbose statement that led to the same thing. And they would say, I just decided I didn't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And what they're saying is, right, like, what do you mean you decided you don't want to do this anymore? You trained for 5 years. You trained for 7 years to be here. You told everyone in your life this is your dream. You said you want to do this more than anything that you've ever wanted to do. And now you decided that you don't want to do anymore. What new information did you get?
Yeah.
You didn't get any new information. You got new experiences that made this feel really hard. And so essentially, one of the number one reasons people quit is because the pain gets bigger than the why.
Yeah.
Right?
Man.
They had this idea of what being a SEAL was like, and the pain got bigger. And what you have to do is you have to have a why that's bigger than your pain. This is Viktor Frankl, a man who knows his why can deal with almost any how.
Yeah.
You have to know why you're doing what you're doing, then you can deal with the difficult situations. And so one of the number one reasons people quit is the pain is bigger than the why. They want to do it until it hurts. Second reason that people fail on discipline is they postpone the reward. Okay. This is what, you could look at this in the discipline exercise that Nick and I just did, but I see people do this all the time in their life. Like, oh yeah, I want to do this thing, but I could do it tomorrow.
Right.
And one of the discipline attitudes is today matters.
Yeah.
Or like James says in scripture, who are you to say that tomorrow you'll go to this town and do this? Your life is but a vapor. The message of that isn't just that life is short. The message of that is all you have is today.
Yeah.
And if you continue to postpone the reward, this is like I forget the name of the parable, but the parable of the master who's going to come back to the wedding servants, right? You don't know when he's going to come back, but when he does come back, you better be ready for him to come home. You don't know when your time is going to come. You don't know when your purpose is going to knock. Like everyone wants to know what their purpose is. One day it's going to knock on your front door, and you better be ready for it.
Yeah.
Right? If you wait for purpose to knock on your front door and you're not ready, there goes your opportunity. And so one of the reasons that people fail on discipline is they continue to postpone the reward with this wrong mindset that they can just they can say, I'll get to it later.
Yeah.
And then the last reason that people fail at discipline is instead of postponing the reward, they diminish the reward. When it starts to hurt, and this is similar, like the pain bigger than the why, well, this third one is what's leading you into the pain bigger than the why, right? Is it diminishes you diminish the reward in your mind by saying, oh, well, I used to think being a Navy SEAL was great, but it's not that. It's not that great anymore. These guys had thoughts. They allowed these thoughts in their mind, right? If I could go back and read through the transcript of people's self-talk, I could show them this is where you quit.
Yeah.
You quit here when you let yourself hear this thought of like, maybe I don't want to be a Navy SEAL anymore. You didn't say I want to quit. You said maybe this isn't everything I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And when you said that, you wrote code that led you to quitting.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why it's so important, the thoughts that you allow, right? You have to reject those thoughts that are taking you in the wrong direction. And you'll quit on your discipline when you start, like we could have in our competition started saying, like I didn't even really want to be low body fat.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. I can do it a different time. It's not that important to me. These are some of the thoughts that keep leading you down the road that you don't want to go down.
Yeah. And I had those thoughts, I'll be honest. No, I really did. That's why I'm so grateful that I had you guys there, because I never planned on doing a cut at the time that we did. I originally had started getting...
You're bulking up for the movie.
Yeah, that's exactly what started me off in April to really get serious
One of Nick's dreams is coming true.
It is. I don't know when now, though, because the filming was supposed to be, if you know this podcast story, actually, you know what, man? Our man Jake Weber, shout out to Jake, love you, bro. He's one of our giant killers and become a good friend. He was telling me on episode 10 for Habits, I actually said before we even had 100 listeners, I was like, if anybody out there knows how to get me in a movie to be shot as an extra, reach out. And he actually said, he's like, oh, I was listening to this episode. You said it back then and I'd forgotten. So that's awesome. So so we had Cody Bobet on, who's becoming an action hero. And he called me up in April and was like, hey bro, I'm a man of my word. I can get you in this movie. And I was like, great. And I said to him, if I'm going to be killed on screen, I'm going to be worthy of the kill. AKA, I don't want to look like some like soft, flabby, skinny dude. I need to look like I could hurt some people. AKA, I'm going to pile some muscle on. So I started piling muscle on, got myself to 206 from 197. And
anything less than 200 is not a good bad guy.
Garrett calls it victim weight. And so I was like, I got to be over 200. So I was 13.7% body fat, humming around at about 206. And I was the most muscular I've ever been. And they're like, hey, let's do this cut. Now I didn't want to do this, but I also was not going to let my friends go into this competition. I wasn't going to be like, oh, no, you're good, guys. I was like, all right, let's do it. Because I'd never cut before. I need to learn how to do this because I was planning on doing it when we shoot. I'm going to do it before we shoot. So anyways, off we go. And I had that in my head where I was like, well, I never planned to do this. I didn't really want to do this. This is stupid. These thoughts came into mind, but we're going to get into the must of discipline because all this factors into what will actually keep you disciplined and what keeps you going. And you've talked about this before. The number one must for discipline is the reason why most people think they have a discipline problem. It's not because they have a discipline problem. It's because they have a purpose problem.
I will give the anecdote again because even if you've heard it once, you need to hear it again, and this will shift you on discipline.
Yeah.
When people come to me and they say they have a discipline problem, and I'm not saying that you are disciplined. You don't know anything. It's not what I'm saying. We'd all like to be more disciplined. I'd like to be more disciplined. That's something you can continually grow in. That's like saying, would you like to be more muscular? No.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
Like that's a silly statement, right? We can all be more disciplined. But when I just like with discipline as a muscle, with my muscularity, I would like to be more muscular, but I also have muscle that like the reason I have the muscle I have is because it's for what I've been accomplishing.
Right.
Right. If I want more muscle, I need to go push my body to do bigger things. But I have the appropriate amount of muscle for the tasks that I've been putting myself towards. I like to make this analogy with people running a marathon. For people who say they're not disciplined, if I tell you tomorrow you have to get up at 4 a.m. and run a marathon with me, people are like, oh man, like I'm not that. I'm not Navy SEAL guy. I can't do that. I'm not, I'm just trying to I don't want to do that. I just want to run like a couple miles a week. And that would be your evidence to me. You'd be trying to tell me like, see, I told you I'm not that disciplined of a person. I said, okay, let me phrase the question a different way, or let me ask you again. Okay, if you don't join me tomorrow at 4 a.m. for a marathon, something terrible is going to happen to your family.
Purpose.
Yeah. And everyone who's listening to this podcast would be there for the 4 a.m. marathon, and you'd figure out how to make it happen.
Right.
You don't need running shoes. You don't need all the gear. You'd run that marathon in your leather shoes uphill in the winter with no warm clothing, right? You would make the marathon happen. Why? Because it matters to you, because you have to. You'd be thinking that entire run, like, if I stop, something terrible is going to happen to my family. That's not necessarily a great way to motivate people, but what I am saying is that when you have the right purpose fuel, you will run the distance.
Yeah, very good.
And because you have such a strong anchor, during that run, you wouldn't start going, well, I could run the marathon a different time.
Right.
And you also wouldn't start saying like, I don't even like my family that much anyways.
Yeah.
right? Like you wouldn't start to do the things
Yeah.
that lead you out of accomplishing what you want to accomplish.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, man, because like it's an extreme example, and like you said, you don't want to be Captain
It's where
Extreme.
you learn. It's where you learn
Right.
is in the extremes.
And you explained this on the previous podcast, and you don't want to be Captain Extreme. But what I love about that is because it goes exactly to what you just said about beforehand, about all the ways that people change. And I think oftentimes people don't really consider their why. Going to the SEAL analogy where you'd think there's a bunch of motivated people, I love that before you went in, and we talked about this on the previous episode, you zoomed out and you said, what could this be for me for the rest of my life? You leveraged yourself to have such a strong why. And we talked about how to make the most out of every opportunity. That was the last podcast we did. And that was one of the things we said is to really consider what things could become. And so like if you're doing whatever, a discipline challenge, or we're doing this fitness thing, it could have just been like, well, we'll just get to the finish line. Then I won't have to do that again because, I like pancakes.
What if a wealthy person came to you, very wealthy person came to you and said, I have the greatest gift that I could possibly give you. And it's behind this door.
Mm-hmm.
But you must do this before you can have what's back there.
Right.
That's if you think about that, like, man, if some billionaire came to me and said, like, I have the greatest gift I could possibly give you, I'm going to give you the ultimate treasure, and it's behind this door. You don't know what it is, but you'd start thinking like, man, well, it could be this, it could be that. Like, I better do what he's asked me to do to get to that thing. And the unknown can be scary for you in your life. The unknown can also be a very special thing. And that's the way that I chose to look at what God's plan is for my life. I don't know what God's plan is for my life. I know it's a great plan. Not because I think I'm some special chosen one, somebody. What I do know is that I serve a great God who made me for a purpose.
Yeah.
And God's purpose for me is a special thing.
Yeah.
Not that I'm special compared to anybody else. It's the exact same for everyone else that's listening to this podcast. But the purpose that God made for you is special and unique for you. And this is a part of God's divine nature, right? We're not all meant to be the Tiger Woods person. That's one role that somebody played. But all of us are supposed to be exactly who God has made us to be.
Yeah.
And that is where you get the opportunity to play your part heroically. Because truly, none of us are the hero. Christ is the hero of the story.
Good.
But you can play your part heroically. And if you look at your life and say, man, if I'll just be disciplined, if I'll just complete the task that's in front of me, I get the special prize that's behind the door from the God of the universe, right? This is the plans. This is the purpose that he has for me. And so what I did was I leveraged all of that into every moment of SEAL training. And I said, if I quit right now, I'm walking away from this, the ultimate prize from the God of the universe, the plans that he has for me, right? I knew I was supposed to be there. And so when I because I made it such a large thing, how do you diminish that?
Right.
How do you like, a billionaire came to me and said it's the greatest prize I could ever have. It's probably stupid anyways.
Right. Yeah.
Right. You're unable to diminish that. So you have to put something of great value at the end of what you're doing. And this is where we can't get into all of it today. This is where you leverage things like alignment to connect what you're doing. Right. Our prize at the end of this discipline challenge that we just did of getting to lower body fat, you could diminish that.
Yeah.
But the way that you succeed is you connect it to a bigger thing.
Right. And for us, we both talked about how we want to be healthy long term. I stole this from you, but one of my life goals is to be in the same size pants for my entire life. Because why? Because that means I'm being healthy. Because I need energy to fulfill God's purpose. And that's ultimately what I really care about. So I'm going to keep myself in shape. So just to fuel that. And you actually kind of touched on this when you said alignment. But number 2 must for discipline, what we said, is your who's. Because you know a thing or two about the concept of a swim buddy. You got to live out where it was invented. You know how powerful that is.
It's the power of a team. It's the power of brotherhood. It's also why I love competition.
Yes.
Right. One of the things that made us so great in the SEAL teams is like on the battlefield we were a team, but at the training compound, it was an intense rivalry.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to be the best, right? Because we were on some way, we were all on a very level playing field.
Right.
No one was fighting for like salary and compensation there. All you have is your reputation.
Right.
Because if you want to know how much somebody makes in the military, look at the rank on their shoulder. And if you know how many years they've been in the military, you know their paycheck to the dollar.
Right.
It's posted online.
Yeah.
Right. So no one's fighting for compensation there. Everyone's fighting for reputation.
Yeah.
Like what is my name worth? And so we all just want to be the best versions of ourselves. Right. And it's very much like a huge competition all the time. And it made the whole community so much better.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, no one could just say in that community, like, oh, I don't want to compete.
Yeah.
Like everyone had to compete.
Yeah.
And you know what? You had to face the reality of like, man, I'm like middle of the leaderboard. Maybe I should try a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Maybe I should dig deeper within myself. And it pushed us all to be better. And that's what you need in your life is not everyone needs the extremes of the SEAL teams, but we all need brothers and relationships in our life, people who want the best for you, people that you're aligned on a common mission with, and people who, if you're not giving your best, they'll call you out on it.
Yeah.
Right. If any one of us had tried to quit, like me and Nick and Norm were all in a group text.
Yeah.
Like encouraging each other and like poking and prodding each other.
You poked and prodded more than I've ever seen you poke and prod. I'll just say.
I did. Well, you've not seen me really poke and prod. That's why. But because it was a small group and it's two people that I really care about, I could instigate a little bit. And really, me instigating was trying to get you guys to run hard because that was going to help me run hard.
It worked 100%. Because like I should have known you were doing it for a reason. But when you talk trash, I was like, in my head, I was like, forget you. I'm going to smoke you. Like I was.
You got to pour a little gasoline on the fire.
Well, we've competed on a lot of things, G.
Yeah.
I mean, we've competed in tetherball, chair assembly, like literally random things.
The tetherball tie because we broke the tetherball.
You broke the tetherball, man. That tetherball is floating in Lake Louisville, like to this day.
To this day.
Like no joke, because Garrett broke it. You were about to beat me as well, so you played yourself, like DJ Kyle would say. But that was the joy of it. Is legitimately, and all the updates from you and Norm, like, oh look at this, and I'm just like, I don't want to see these pictures, guys, but like, great job. And in my head, I'm like, all right, well, cut my calories again, like gonna keep doing the right things. And what was also so amazing about this, when you're doing this, you talked about, would you rather be disciplined and not know how, or would you rather not know how and be really disciplined? Well, the reason I chose to be really disciplined, I'm a pretty disciplined person. I live a disciplined life. This was not like, oh no, this was like, okay, we're just gonna instill some new things. What I'm so grateful for is that I have some who's in my life, like a Cody McBroom, who was such a blessing to me on this. Cody gave me my workout plan. And if you don't, like, go look up Tailored Coaching Method. We don't get anything for us. I just got to give Cody his flowers because he was such a blessing to me. Like, dude, he made it simple for me. He gave me my eating plan. He told me what my macros should be. He gave me a workout plan. And so I knew if I can just do what Cody said, and I'll tell you, when you cut your calories by 25%, there's no easy way to make that pill go down. The first 9 days that I did that, I was so hungry, like literally all the time. I would finish eating and I would be hungry. And I'd be like, well, that was those calories. Now I got to stop. And I remember I reached out to him and I said, hey, bro, like I've cut the calories like you said. This really sucks.
I'm hurting, bro.
I said to him, should I just be prepared that this is how it's going to be? Or am I doing something wrong? Or does this go away? Because he was really detailed. Cody knows
the
this
great
stuff.
Philosopher Ronnie Coleman said,
right.
Everybody wants to be a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to lift the weight.
I had no problem with the weight. It was I didn't want to. I wanted to lift.
That's part of the weight.
Yeah, I wanted to lift
part of the weight.
But so he even gave me something to make that better. I mean, I just can't say enough good things. But that's one of the things about like going together. He wasn't even in the competition, but he was an encouragement for me because he's such an expert at this. He gave me so much good insight. And I learn coming out of this, man? I feel like I'm the most knowledgeable I've ever been about how to like feed myself the way in accordance with how I want to look or the health goal that I have. And that to me is so valuable.
That leads right into our last point.
Yeah.
Before we go there, I just want to give my answer to the would I rather have purpose.
You said there was no right answer.
Well, I'll give you my opinion of. I've seen both work for people.
Okay.
But I'll give you my opinion of a right answer, and it's similar to the quote: "A man who knows his why will deal with almost any how." So what discipline is a skill, discipline is a muscle, but this is like saying, which athlete do you choose to win the race?
Right.
The guy with all the muscle, because that's what discipline is, it's muscles, or the guy who feels like he must win?
Right.
I'm going to choose the guy who feels like he must win, and that's the guy who has purpose.
Right.
Right. So a man who knows this discipline will make it easier for you. Some of this was me in SEAL training. I went to SEAL training, and the furthest distance I'd ever run in my life was 4 miles.
Right.
I didn't really know what I was doing. I was not the most disciplined person there. There were dudes who'd been running, 75 miles a week for the last 5 years of their life getting ready for this program. I'd never run more than 4 miles before I showed up, but I knew why I had to make it through the program.
Now, I want to highlight something about one of my best friends, Garrett Unclebach here. The question was, would you rather have A or B? And Garrett came in and said, I'll take C. And like C was not on the table. You said, would you rather be disciplined and not know how, or know how and not be disciplined? You'll say, I'll take the guy with the most purpose. Wait a minute, that wasn't on the table. But
No. I said it's discipline and not know like why or.
No, you said how. You said you do not know what to do. That was what you said.
Okay, sorry. I should have been more clear. That's kind of what I was getting at.
Okay.
A lot of people they have discipline, but they don't really know what it is.
Right.
When I say what it is you're supposed to do, what I meant is like you have your sense of purpose.
Yeah. And I agree with you, but that is also a very Garrett thing for people. Like you can go A or B and you're like, you can't tell me what to do. I'll do C. That's you.
That's true. Okay, let's hit the
let's
last
move on.
point.
Okay. Last one. And this is kind of obvious. I touched on it here before, but it's have a plan and a feedback loop. And this is I want to get into a little bit more places because you may not be going like, okay, I'm going to do a physical discipline challenge. But guess what? You need it in every area of your life. So our plan and discipline loop, we touched about it. Like you got a workout plan from our friend Josh Thomas. We both we had different people help us with our plans. But the feedback loop was not only the scales that we used every day to kind of give us a general feel, but we knew we had this DEXA. There was a source of truth. We all started with a DEXA. We all ended with a DEXA. You can say the DEXA is not accurate. You can hate it. You can say whatever. But you know what? That was our feedback loop that we had selected, and it was consistent. And so it's true.
So you need things like the DEXA or a scale. You need tools in your life that you make an effort, but then there's a short feedback loop of, okay, what did my results get me?
Yeah.
And so that seems very clear for fitness. And you'd be like, well, I wish something like that existed for the other areas of my life.
What's my marriage score?
But they do.
You're right.
It's not a scale that you stand on, but you can have conversations, you can have relationships in your life, you can read books, you can ask questions, you can look at your bank account, you can chart the growth of your business, right? There is a way. Don't just feel like you're just in, the data abyss and there's just, there's nothing to tell me how my life is going. That is being foolish. All the other areas of your life besides fitness, there are ways to gather data.
Yeah.
And what you need to do is not just to be disciplined, right? You've got to know your why. If you don't know your why, when it gets hard, you're going to quit. You need the right people who are going to go with you. You need the strong who's in your life. For your marriage, your who isn't just your wife.
Right.
Your who is other men and other couples around you who are also going in the right direction.
For sure.
Who believe the same things about marriage as you. I cut off some people early in Lindsay and I's relationship. I said, these people don't believe the same things about marriage that we do. We're not going to spend any time with them, right? Because they're not going in the direction that we want to go. You need the who's in your life. If you want to be successful in business, hang out with other people who at a minimum want to be successful in business.
Yeah.
Ideally, you can hang out with people who've already been successful in business, but at a minimum, be around people who want the same things as you, who are trying to go in the same direction as you, that at the very least will encourage you to keep going down the path that you want to go down, not pull on you in the wrong direction. So you've got to have your who. And then lastly, have a plan. This is you saying before you get into the discipline chaos battlefield. Because when Nick had the plan from Cody, if Nick hadn't had the plan from Cody, when it got hard or when he got hungry, he would have just eaten some more. But Cody said, no, this is what you get to eat.
Yep.
And so with that plan, it made it a lot easier, not easy, but easier to make the choice. All Nick had to say was, do I want to be disciplined? Yes. So I follow the plan.
Yeah.
This is the power of having a plan, but with the plan is the feedback loop. What do I get from the plan?
Yeah.
Right? When the plan tells me what the results are, I have measured some form of insight and measurable data. Now I know if my plan is successful, and that allows you, after you do little sprints, this is what Nick and I were talking about, was the great output for this. Every single one of us, Nick, Norm, and myself, are glad that we got better, but none of us hit what we aimed for.
Yeah, we all fell short.
Yeah, none of us got to where we wanted to be. But you know what's great? We can take this, like all of us talked, and we have some insight based upon the results that we got, where we're saying, you know what? Now here's what I'm going to do.
Yep.
I'm glad I got better, but now here's how I'm going to get even better than that. Here's what I'm going to do with the next quarter. Because all of us want to continue to make gains, not just in fitness, but in every area of our life. And so here's how we're going to tweak ourselves and change based upon the insight that we got from that. So you've got to know your why. You've got to have the who that you want in your life. And you have to have a plan with a feedback loop.
Yeah, it's so good. Gee, I want to give one example in a non-quantitative way, and then we can wrap. Because, like I said, it's in fitness, in finances, even in your career, you can kind of get a good idea of where you're at with these things. In the qualitative measures where you don't have a hard number, it's more of opinion-based, like your marriage, your friendships, places where there's relationships and there's not as much a score, your rest, things like that, your relationship with God. How do you measure those things? And here, I'm going to give a marriage example because we've talked about it on this podcast so many times, and I'm amazed when I meet people and I'll ask them the question, do you date your wife weekly? How many people still go, no? Like, what if you took...
I've given the advice to a lot of people, date your wife every week, do your quarterly overnights, do your annual trips, ask them how it's going. Like, well, we do most of the time.
Right.
So you failed is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
You didn't follow the plan.
That's exactly right. So what if you just took the things that we talked about in your marriage and for 30 days you said, I've heard Garrett say this, so I'm going to do this for 30 days. I'm going to have, as you call it, press conference, and what I call my how was your day?
Press conference.
I look at my wife before we do anything, like before we watch a show or do anything, I say, how was your day? And I lock in eyes with her, and she knows that she has however long she wants. She's got my undivided attention to talk about whatever.
Rewarding you with 5 minutes of uninterrupted eye contact.
Yeah, it's not quite like that, but it's like, okay, so I'm gonna have a daily time where I set aside time to have a legit, connected, uninterrupted conversation. Doesn't sound hard. I'm going to take you on a date every week. Okay, good. And then what are you going to do at the end of that 30 days? And this is the part that requires a lot of humility, and you have to be willing to actually take on what's welcome. This is the feedback loop. Hey, babe, what can I do to be a better husband? And you better mean it. Because I promise you, if you've created a space that's safe enough that your wife knows she can answer that honestly, she'll have an answer.
If you ask that question and you don't mean it, it's the same as going to a DEXA scan with the belief of this thing doesn't work.
Right. Oh, I didn't like the numbers. DEXA lies. I found something on Google that tells me as much.
Lindsay was fully ready to support me.
Right. Which is why she's a great wife and also dangerous. But think about that. What I just gave was not complicated. We've talked about on this podcast so many times. You could take everything we just said. Strong why. You want to have a better marriage. Who? Your wife. And guess what? Tell a few of your friends. Find some marriage mentors. Those are part of the who that we talked about. It's not just the people that are doing it with you. They're people you can look up to and learn from. Take this plan that we just gave you. Very, very simple. You're going to check in every day and have a conversation. You're going to go on a date once a week. And at the end of 30 days, here's your feedback loop. You're going to ask her, what can I do to be a better husband? And then guess what? Go do another 30 days of that and ask her again. And I promise you, and I'm speaking from experience because I asked my wife this, what can I do to serve you better? The most amazing thing was when she just goes, you're an amazing husband. I can't think of anything. Oh, you've won. You've won. And guess what? If you want to keep winning, you'll keep doing the same things. And so I hope that people are starting to think, okay, where can I do this with my kids? Where can I do this with my friendships? How do I assess this with my relationship with God? That's why you need who's. You need mentors to be able to go and ask and say, hey, where am I missing it? Like, what do you see in me? And hopefully you have somebody that can look at you and go, you know what? Like Jesus said to the rich young ruler that he loved, this one thing you lack. And if you're open to receiving that, you can go out with your strong why. You can have the greatest who's you could ever imagine around you. You can get a great plan that's full of divine wisdom in place that has feedback in it. And you can use discipline to grow and become all that God made you to be, which is what we're here to do. Thank you very much for listening, guys. Remember to share, like, subscribe. If you think that this would be something that someone would enjoy, please send it to them. We appreciate it all. If you want to get in touch, you can follow us on Instagram at The Impossible Life. You'll find us on there. You can also email at impossiblelifepodcast@gmail.com. If you have any questions, if you want to get in touch and find out about Garrett's personal or business coaching, that's the way to do it. Thank you again for listening. Go out there, think better, and live the impossible. See you again soon.